Kunos have just released their British GT DLC pack for Assetto Corsa Competizione. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what I think of it. Fasten your seatbelts, let's get ready for a bit of a talk and drive. If you enjoy our content and want to support the channel, use the Gamer Muscle Fanatec affiliate store link when buying fancy pants sim racing equipment. Links in the description. Thanks for the tea bags. Let's continue. Welcome to my glorious Chevy at Oulton Park, where we will be experiencing this sunrise through the power of time acceleration. I hope people don't mind me rotating the planet quicker than it should be rotated. We've probably already killed everyone on the ISS, but it doesn't matter because we want to see the sunrise in a short period of time. Now, of course, Oulton Park is one of the 3 DLC tracks that you can get here for the $12.99 of the DLC. The rest being Donington, absolutely superb, and Snetterton, which isn't a very good track. Now, in fairness to Kunos, Snetterton has been very nicely modelled and looks fantastic in the simulator, but Snetterton, in my opinion, is just a bit of a miserable track. It's not as bad as Pocono Raceway, but I would say it's worse than Paul Ricard. So keep that in mind. Just treat Snetterton as a part of the buy 2 get 1 free. Snetterton's the product that no one wanted. Sorry, MSV. Sorry, Snetterton. It's okay once you've learned it. It's not as bad as Pocono, but I'm going to rag on it through the entirety of this video. So, having said that, Donington easily in the top 10. Look at that sunrise. Beautiful. Donington easily in my top 10 tracks, and Oulton Park easily in my top 10 tracks. As those of you that watch the channel will know, I'm an absolutely massive fan of Donington and Oulton Park, especially for sprint race format, especially with slower vehicles. So one of the things to keep in mind with this DLC, I would say, is that these Brit tracks, with them being sort of 1950s UK tracks, in terms of when they were built, they're not really, in my opinion, suited to GT3 cars. You're not going to get as good racing with GT3 cars. Like, the handling of them just isn't really in line with what suits these tracks. Whereas if you drive these tracks with GT4 cars, which have a lot more sort of slide, and the dynamics of them are much closer to the other types of vehicles that would likely have raced on these tracks in the past. Okay, not at all like them, but still, with the nature of GT4 cars being a bit more slidey, a little bit less glue-like, you're going to get much more fun racing. And that's what we found. After doing 6 hours of live streaming, the GT4 was instantly more fun than the GT3. The racing was closer. It did take a while for people to get used to the tracks, as is always the case, and Oulton Park and Donington, if you've never driven them, do take a little bit to get the hang of, but once you've got them, just amazing fun to drive with GT4 cars. And unlike the sort of modern Formula tracks, you know, there's none of that sort of car park runoff rubbish. You've got proper lawn either side, proper grass, that if you make a mistake, you get punished for it. None of this like easy drive off the track, drive back on. It's proper pressurised driving with punishment for making a mistake. Absolutely superb. Now, talking about the specific details from Kunos' perspective of the tracks in terms of with what they've done with them, in terms of modelling them into the game, and the details are absolutely fantastic. Of course, they're laser scanned. Why are you so slow, Mr. BMW? They're laser scanned tracks, and you can really see that. And as again, I say, the detail of them is probably... these are probably the best versions of these circuits in any simulator from a raw fidelity standpoint. And then, of course, the nice thing as well, which is also the case with the other tracks in ACC, is that you just have really good attention to detail with sort of trackside objects. You saw there the crane for picking up the car when you inevitably crash it. The like little brick wall there on the left. You should have the war monument in a bit on the right. Random houses, which would be really cool to own a house at Oulton Park. Just all the marshals and all the little bits and bobs that make it feel like, oh, you're at a nice, convincing racetrack rather than something that's a bit empty, stale and bland. And Kunos haven't gone too far they've not gone in the Need for Speed direction where there's too much crap everywhere. You've got the 505 advertising board, but I'll give them a pass on that because it advertises the Fanatec wheels for which you can use my Fanatec affiliate link. So I'll let Kunos off on that. But, you know, porta toilets, green porta toilets at Oulton Park, the lake on the left there, and actually, most importantly, bits of different grass. Great. So, for the price of the DLC, the quality of the tracks that you get in this are amazing. I mean, given that you look at iRacing as a comparison, perhaps not a completely fair comparison because it has an online competitive system and that's what people are paying for, but the tracks in that are like £11-12 each, whereas you get 3 tracks which are better quality than anything in iRacing for £10 here. Different games, different systems, but value for money there. My only worry with the DLC with tracks is that it's not really the cost of the DLC. The issue is that it does fragment the user base between the people that do have it and don't have it, especially when you start getting into more DLC packs. And we are getting to that point with ACC now, where I think hopefully they will do some kind of packet soon, or, you know, when they next do a sale, they'll drop the price down for a pack. So if you've not got it, it doesn't feel like you're buying the Royal Crown Jewels just to get into the game. But, you know, they normally do aggressive sales on it. The pricing is normally really good. So we'll just see what happens there. Float it around here. Now, other points that have changed with this DLC is not just the DLC. Of course, we've got an update that's alongside the DLC. Even if you've not bought the DLC and you've just got ACC, the update has brought some nice little, mostly just little polished things. Nothing totally massive. But the biggest thing, for those of you that just like casual racing online, is now there's a server filter. They finally put a server filter in the game. Something that you'd expect to find in a 90s first-person shooter. But, you know, better late than never, I say. And that is huge, that you can now just click for filter by ping or user numbers. And, let's BMW slow again. I should put the AR on a harder setting. Having that server filter is, I think that's going to be really welcomed by a lot of people that found the server browser very irritating. Certainly brings it up to the level of what you'd expect with a normal computer game. Also, what I noticed as well, which is probably a subtle thing, but actually for me it was quite a big thing, is they've now added a sort of fake content shadow, which weirdly, I was talking about it in the previous live stream 2 or 3 days ago. I was like, oh, why haven't they got contact shadows? Because it works as a nice little hack that runs nicely and stops cars looking like they're floating. And then in this update, we've got contact shadows. I'm pretty sure it was, you know, they were going to do it anyway. But it does make a big difference. When you're driving now, you know, if you've got the graphics turned down a little bit or the shadows turned down a little bit, it's just nice that the cars don't look like they're floating all over the place. Another thing that's changed is there's some bopping that's gone on. You've got the British GT bopping on the British tracks specifically, and also I think that some of the cars have been bopped all around generally as well. I think the Ginetta might be a little bit slower than it used to be. We'll see how that all pans out, but yeah, it's all sort of little subtle quality of life things, constant polish. And I have to say, you know, that's one of the reasons why I like developers, specifically Kunos, Reza, and just developers that keep on polishing and developing stuff rather than pumping and dumping. One thing we noticed as well when we were doing our 6 hours live stream is that the netcode is particularly good in ACC, in that, you know, it needs to be on these types of nippy tracks with GT4 cars where you're going to do a little bit of door leaning, a bit of trading paint. And the netcode is absolutely superb. 30 to 40 cars. I think we had like 40 cars at the most when we were doing our stream. And everything was running totally smooth. No, like, absolutely ridiculous contacts and stuff. There was one bug where if someone leaves the server or quits out, their car gets left on the track, but I'm sure Kunos will hotfix that out. But the actual baseline netcode is just really nice in ACC. Really conducive to having fun racing on these nippy, small, tight circuits. Let's try and get it around here. Throw it in a bit. Now, if you're playing these tracks and you're like, oh, you find the car's a bit tricky in ACC, I have to say personally, I find ACC much harder to drive than other simulators because I find it a little bit sluggish, and the force feedback really just doesn't communicate seat of the pants feel, which it does in AC, R Factor 2, Race Room, iRacing with IIFFB. For some reason, Kunos have, I don't know, they're just not interested in it. If you are more used to other vehicles in other sims and you want as good a force feedback as possible, I have found, and general handling that's close to other cars, physics-wise, this Chevy, personally, I've found to be the closest to those other sims. It seems to drive in the most similar way. So it's just worth noting, if you normally struggle with ACC or the GT4 cars, jump into this Chevy, absolutely spot on. Well, personally, in my opinion, not as good as the other cars in other sims, but perfectly good enough for you to have loads of fun with it. Nice lift-off oversteer, pretty balanced on the throttle. It does what you'd expect from it, to be honest. You know, it's GT4 car. The best thing about it, though, is that you've got a air travel inflatable pillow on the dash. So if you want a quick nap whilst you're doing a lap of Alton Park, you can turn your seat around, rest your head, and that's it, inflatable pillow. Just ruined the dashboard of this car, and if you ever drive the Chevy, you will always think of an inflatable pillow on the dash. So sorry about that. But you know, it's worth it for the pillow. Who needs a tightly designed dash when you can have an inflatable pillow on it? Now, the other things we're saying with the DLC would be, well, you do of course have subtle updates to AI as well. I don't think the AI is the best in ACC, but you can still have absolutely fantastic racing with it, and especially if you're the type of person that is using the AI to sort, you know, you're relatively new to sim racing, so you're using the AI to get used to things. You don't have them on the hardest setting. Then the AI are more than fine for that. They do occasionally still punt you on tighter corners if you're driving very close to them, and you do seem to get more affected by AI punts and knocks than you get affected by knocks in multiplayer, which is strange. The AI seems to have more mass to them than you. Whoa! But look at that, you know, he was going to make a move. I went up the inside, that car backed out of it. I think the AI is really good in this. You can have lots of fun with it if you're an offline racer. So, all told, I'm saying it's a really good DLC. It's really worth getting. Absolutely fantastic value for money, especially compared to other simulators. And you're easily going to get the... I mean, I guess maybe some people don't like Donington. I totally appreciate people not liking Snetterton. But how could you not like Alton Park or Donington? Just absolutely superb circuits. Absolutely superb. So you'll easily get your value. I guess maybe if you prefer GT3 racing, these tracks aren't best suited to that. So if you like GT4 cars, though, then this DLC should totally tickle your pickle. Have I sold it enough? Have I sold the DLC enough? What a bloody shill. What a bloody shill. So, my big hopes would be, moving on into the future, that Kunos do some kind of pack to consolidate all the DLCs they've got already, so it's easier for someone to get into ACC if they're coming to it new, now that there's a lot of DLC. You know, squeeze it all together, that'd be great. I would also hope that people drive the GT4 cars more online. I don't know what there's something wrong with ACC players. I think it's the GT3 Monza Spa guys. Although actually it's turned into GT3 Imola now. So, but there's people that just drive GT3 cars at 2 tracks and that's all they do. I don't know what's wrong with them. Hopefully, more people drive. They're like, oh, hang on a minute. Dono, Alton Park, and some of the other circuits are more fun with GT4 cars. We don't have to be in the fastest car. We can drive cars that are actually just more fun to drive. So hopefully that happens and that changes around. And hopefully maybe the server filters improve that component of it. The performance aspect of the game is worth mentioning before we finish off. If you play in VR, it's still pretty much the same. The new tracks are nicely optimized within the context of Assetto Corsa tracks. You know, they run better actually than some of the earlier tracks with the first launch of Assetto Corsa. I think they just got better at building the tracks out of the box in a more optimized way. But yeah, I with my 2080 Ti on my 1440p screen on my ultra wide, I'm still getting sort of 85-90 FPS. Which is fine, but the frame time is not necessarily perfect, and you know, if you're in VR, you're gonna have to turn the settings down. It's not gonna look as crisp as other simulators. If you're someone that likes high fidelity crisp VR, unless you've got, well, even if you've got a 3090, you're probably, you know, you're sort of in that same problem that you get with Microsoft Flight Simulator, where fact is you're just not gonna be able to get that raw performance out of it because the game is just fundamentally too heavy. We're like 2 graphics cards away from it being able to run to the level that you'd require. But it is there as an option. I don't think it's good enough for it, but if you're hoping for this update to be the, oh my god, it now works perfectly in VR, no. And I don't think that's ever going to happen with ACC. You got to wait like 2 years for graphics cards to catch up. But that is pretty much it. Nothing else to say. Just a really good DLC, really good value for money. If you're an ACC fan, you'll love it. If you're on the fence, I've always said this, I think ACC's a sim that's worth, it's in my top 10 sims that you would buy. There's a whole bunch of sims. I'll do another video on that. It's in that group of simulators that you just owe it to yourself to own if you've got a force feedback wheel and you like sim racing. So there you go. Hopefully my thoughts were of use to you, and get in the sim and drive it. If you enjoyed this video and the rambling of a bold lunatic, click that like button, click the subscribe button. But until the next one, guys, thank you very much for watching. Happy tea drinking, and goodbye.